I want to thank everybody for coming this afternoon. We do have one chapter here that I would like to talk about is our transportation chapter. Pat's going to kind of touch on this. And I do have some maps as well to look at, kind of some economic opportunities for rail. I kind of wanted everybody just to kind of take a look at them and see maybe where we could get some other development, maybe something that's more rail initiative, maybe it's some type of farming operation, or just kind of where we're going in the future with economic development when compared with or partnered with rail opportunities in the county. So most of it's going to be about transportation today. And so I'll let Pat take over right now.
All right. Nothing like getting our transportation people out for this one. So, I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory that this one is all about transportation, all different kinds. The first part of the chapter just starts with discussing the types of roadways that we have within the county, as well as our rail lines and then the one airport that exists in the county. The next page looks at the different classifications for roads. Oh, just there. Okay, so I'm really not going to go into detail. I think everybody knows what highways we have here in the county. We just went through and described each of them and the different type of roads and what their functions are. Basically for us, we have the two state interstates, federal interstates. For arterials, which are what really move traffic throughout the county, basically the state highways function in that role for the county. And then we do have some of the arterial roads, which are a little smaller roads that are close to Sioux Falls that function in the same way. We've listed a couple of those in there, like Ellis Road and 6 Mile Road, 41st Street when you exit the city limits. The next group of streets are the collectors, which kind of route traffic then onto our other roads, the larger roads. And for us, those are the county highways, and that's the major purpose they serve for us out in the rural areas. And we also have a few township roads, which function in that same purpose in the county, but are still gravel roads. And I'm trying to go to the next page. Okay, so we do, I apologize that we can't see this better on the screen, but you do have the map in front of you. This is our major street plan, which we have to adopt by state law in order to have a platting jurisdiction for the county. This shows just the different type of roads that we talked about, the arterials, then the collectors, and then the roads that are barely on there, the township roads. These are all, when we have somebody that plats a property on any of the state highways or the county highways, they are required to dedicate land, extra land, for the expansion of the roadway should it happen in the future. So on any county highway or state highway, they have to, instead of dedicating the 33 feet that you would for a township road, they're required to dedicate 50 feet of land. So it's to make it easier in the future if utility lines need to be run, or for some reason the state highway has to expand, or that you want to put a turning lane in somewhere. There's already some extra right of way for that purpose. Going on to page 4. So the local roadways, which we all drive on, that's over 65% of what we have for our road network in the county. And those are most of our little gravel roads or township roads out there, and then all the streets that are in the subdivisions. And then depending on the township that you're located in, the subdivision roads are either maintained by a township or they're privately maintained by the owners that live in that community. Some Since we didn't have any other airport in the county, I just went ahead and put the Joe Foss Field in there, so that we had that, we at least do have an airport here. So I go on to the next row, or next page, which we look at the railroads, and we have 3 major lines here. First is the Burlington Northern Santa Fe, which runs throughout the county. How do I do this? I'm just going to put the map up too, so that's easier. Which is shown, and we will get a better map. I just fill this up at the DOT site. The green line is the Burlington Northern Santa Fe line that runs through our county up to Garrettson, and then through the northwest part going all the way out to Madison. LJ Everest Incorporated also has a rail line from Del Rapids down to Sioux Falls, and thank you, Todd, for getting that information to me. They also connect with the Burlington Northern, and then also Eastern and the Ellison Eastern Railroad. The Ellison Eastern Railroad there is shown in purple on the map, and that one is owned by Sweetman Construction Company, and that really runs from Brandon through Sioux Falls and out to Ellis. And there's still a little bit that shows that it goes all the way to Valley Springs, but that part has actually been abandoned. There's not really a rail track in there anymore. So. I apologize, we did not get the bicycle and pedestrian part written yet. We did pop in the map, and we can talk about this a little bit. This was it's also sitting on the floor down here. This was what we had displayed at the public hearings that, for potential connections for bike and rail, or I'm sorry, bike and pedestrian paths. And one of the things was making a connection to the 2 parks, Brooker Prairie and then out to Wall Lake, trying to connect with the existing trails of Sioux Falls and running out to Brandon. And then doing, piggybacking on what the state had done, kind of along Highway 38 going to Hartford and joining in with that. And then when we had the open house, there were comments that we needed to do something up in the northwest part of the county, which we'll write into the plan. And then also maybe a connection up to Palisade Park there by Garrettson. And if somebody else had some other suggestions, we can just go ahead and shout them out.
I know I was involved in a movement, when Highway 11 was getting reconstructed, trying to get a bike path from Garrison to, that between Garrison and Brandon would be a great connection, but it's obviously biased by people that are close to it too.
Yeah, I mean, it's, getting the dedication of land for that is hard.
Yeah.
Really hard to, and the cost of doing the project.
They did put a nice wide shoulder on the road and put up some bike path signs, so everybody was a little bit happier.
Well, yeah, I mean, and we have to be realistic in this part of the country. That's probably a lot of what we can afford to do. It's more for recreation. We don't use it as transportation as much. So,
well, and from the state's perspective, a lot of it goes to the fact that we're all in favor of building bike paths and shared use paths, but we won't maintain them.
That was the challenge. We could get the money to build them, but we couldn't maintain them.
Yeah, if there's no dedication, no funding source for maintenance, we won't build them. And the same thing happened on Highway 17, and we rebuilt that here a few years back, and the folks in the, I think it's called County Acres or Country Acres.
Oh, Country Acres, yeah.
They were pushing to have bike paths put out there, but they didn't want to pay for the maintenance of it, so it ended up falling through.
Showstopper for us too.
Pat, the map that's in the packet is different than that map? You know which one is newer? That has.
Oh yeah, that's probably the newer.
Del Rapids.
That's the newer one where we did actually show the connection up to Del Rapids. Thank you for pointing that out.
Does it show a path going all the way down the river? Is that what it's saying?
Yeah, I mean that was kind of a dream. But still, if we could someday do it. And I think, at some of the meetings too, we had people that really would, and that was more a direct recreation, but would like to have canoe and kayak down the river too, so. The part that I really want to focus on with everybody today is the goals. So we'll get to the next page there. And I would assume DJ and Hey,
Me?
yeah, oh, thank you,
So
sorry.
that's okay, Pam.
I'd assume you probably, just jump in on comments on these goals and everything. The first one that we wanted to focus on was investing and maintaining in the existing county highways and bridges. And that would apply to the state too. I think we all know that proper maintenance is important, otherwise it costs you more in the long run, to go back. And it seems like common sense, but sometimes, for politics, we have this put in writing, just so we have a document to point at. We have 4 action goals there, and which basically talk to that principle. The first one, to preserve the life and vitality of the highways. The second one is looking at the drainage ways and the ditches to make sure they're functioning as they're supposed to. The third one was working together. That Deb had brought up one instance, where I think the township or somebody had done some work, and then the highway went through and did some work, and so we want to make sure that we're not over using or over planning for areas and work together to get things done. And then of course, and I think BJ's and his crew have gone out and really done this, is to protect the highway system with the overweight, the oversized loads, and then especially with the problems with the bridges. The second goal is that we want to have safe and efficient travel throughout the county. And so that first one kind of speaks to some of the intersections, which we have, if you think about lines where we used to have the 2 curves that were fairly dangerous, that those have been redone. So looking to make sure that we consider those things out in the county where we can maybe correct it and make it a little easier, a little safer for people. The second one is the possibility of expanding the highway system, where we do have traffic usage that exceeds the capacity of the gravel surfacing. And I think those of you that live outside in the county probably know that there are several places where we have some township roads that really get heavy use. One I can think of is 466th Avenue, which runs by the gravel pits out south of Buffalo Ridge there. From Highway 17 north to Highway 42, that one takes a lot of traffic. The road on the west side of Wall Lake is another possibility, given that we already have a county and 2 county highways and people to make the loop. And then I know East Maple Street is carrying a lot of traffic as well, and the neighbors out there I know have been calling plenty of times wanting to have that paved. And so if you all think of some other ones that you're familiar with or might think to add to the list. I'm not sure, DJ, that would be happy to have a list, but.
Oh, we have a list.
Okay, and if you have some others on the list that you can.
Our list is confidential.
Okay. And then we do have an adopted intersection safety zone, which basically a lot of times are described as the triangle, where you make sure you don't block the vision of traffic coming to the intersection of 4th Street. And so we want to just make sure that we enforce that, especially with crop season, so that people can see, each other and try to prevent any collisions that way. Go on to the next page.
Just real quick, maybe this is folded. What is the correct policy on, we're just talking about this on our road because we spent a bunch of money on it, the township.
Right.
On posting a speed limit, what does it take to look at speeds on some of these roads?
That has to be enacted by the county
Do
commission.
you want to change it from the posted?
If it's a county highway, are you talking about a county?
Township road.
They do township roads as well.
Even, yeah, okay.
The county
I'll stay out of
commission
that.
will, they have to post the signs and post it.
If you're going to change the posted limit, but you can put a suggested speed up without that, I think, those good goals. To do it.
As long as that has been suggested or recommended by an engineering study. If you put it up without an engineering study and somebody dies and you get sued, you're gonna lose
So it's slower.
if it's slower.
Oh, I know, that's something that I gotta consider with the township, and we met and we decided to use yellow signs and just post it slower, to slow people down.
The unfortunate part is oftentimes, a lot of people always come to the state and say, this route is too fast, people are gonna get hurt, whatever. And what people don't always understand is to just go out there and put up a new speed limit sign saying that it's slower, actually can cause accidents because people are used to traveling at a certain speed and they will travel that speed regardless of what's posted. And then you end up having those few people who abide by what's posted going, say, 35 and everybody else is going 50, and they come up too fast on somebody who's obeying the speed limit and it causes collision. But in terms of the state highway system, we always say we have to do a traffic study. Our region traffic engineer comes out, analyzes the roadway system, looks at what is the speed that the traveling public is actually traveling the road, and they set it at the 85th percentile, which means what is 85% of the traveling public actually traveling this road at, and that's how they determine what the speed limit should be. And then to be able to, if it's say less than what the posted speed limit is, and say it's posted 65, but people really are only able to travel 55 because of the congestion on the route, they have to present that information then to the Transportation Commission for approval, and the Transportation Commission are the ones that actually make that determination, yes or no, to reduce the speed limit, and then we can actually send a maintenance crew out there to physically change the sign. So it's a huge endeavor, really, to be able to just change a speed limit sign in terms of the state highway system.
Yeah, this is a township road, I guess, is what the correct protocol is.
Yes.
The county follows that almost an identical procedure, just with different governing bodies. And I thought that the township could do that with their own board, but they do have to go to the.
The township board is the one that decided. I'm not even on the township board.
The county commission has to approve that.
Are you with the county?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm DJ Boothie, the highway superintendent.
Okay. And you're with the,
I'm Brooke White. I'm an access management engineer for the state of South Dakota.
Okay.
So I don't directly deal with doing the traffic speed studies and that kind of thing, but I refer information to our traffic engineers who actually do that work.
In the loop.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's what our understanding was, is that if you wanted to go to a posted white sign that physically changed the speed, you had to get county approval. Is what our township board found out. I just was double checking. And then if you wanted to do a suggested speed in a yellow sign on the township road, they could do that.
They wouldn't need a resolution, but that same process should be followed without the resolution changing the regulatory speed limit.
so you just said that not too long ago over here south by Palisade, wasn't it? That they wanted to get the speed limit, the roads posted over there? I was reading in the commission notes here a while. That's maybe a year ago.
Because the speed on a township road is 55 miles an hour when not
Back
posted,
too
correct?
far.
Back to
Well, I'll give a note to the township board and we'll talk more about it.
Yeah, I think do a little more
There's the
investigation.
road by your place
Yeah,
there,
yeah.
the one that you treat.
Yeah, the 4 miles.
Aren't those usually 50 though? I mean, our road going right outside of Kurtz is 50, it's still way too fast for the traffic on.
No, we were told that all township roads are 55 miles an hour. Assume 55 even when they're not posted.
Pat, is that covered under the same resolution as the county highway system?
I'm not sure where it is in state law, to tell you the truth, but.
Well, the state law says 65 miles per hour, unless it's changed via resolution by a county commission. And our county commission has an ordinance that was passed for 55.
Okay.
And I don't know if that includes township roads or not.
Yeah, something's not posted, it says not posted, and it says highway, then that would include the township roads as well, they're considered highways.
So by resolution in Minnehaha County, they're 55, unless they're posted otherwise,
Yeah.
which also requires a resolution to be enforced.
Well, I'll put that back in your lap and we'll talk about it some more.
Yeah, and then the contact would be Ken McFarland, if they choose to, through the commission office.
question. Our township is in the process of enforcing overweight permits. We have several areas that are posted, anything over 6 ton, they have to get a permit. The rule and regulations say we can't do that. I don't know.
Again, I don't know exactly how the overweight permitting works for townships compared to highways, but I'm guessing that your overweight restrictions would have to be via resolution either by your board or the county commission, however that would work for townships. And then you can do a permitting system if you have the staffing available for something like that. You would just have to pass a resolution for that. You're allowed that by state statute.
Sorry to delay us there, but
No.
that was the appropriate time to bring that up.
Yeah.
And then for enforcement on that, I don't know if you guys have worked with motor carrier services at all?
We're just starting the process here. Not that say we haven't been doing it, but it's been slipping, and our problem is trying to repair some of these asphalt developments that we have out east of town.
Sure.
We don't have money to do it, we get all the stone either, so we're trying to enforce more of what happens in there, and people are a little irate with who's actually coming in there, so to speak.
Oh, yeah.
So we're trying to find a way.
The county sheriff's office doesn't have the right equipment and the trained personnel for enforcing overweight limits, and so we have to work with Highway Patrol and their division of motor carrier services. And so I can give you a contact person for them. Their contact.
That'd be great.
Okay, the next is goal 3, and this probably goes more back just to planning, looking at linking transportation decisions to land use impacts and what's going out there. So definitely working with the cities and townships when we have applications in for developments that are really going to cause an impact on roads that they oversee.
Just curious, how, mainly because this is my main job that I do for the state is enforcing access permits and managing access, like your action point 3.3.
Yes.
Requiring shared approaches. And I'm just curious how you plan to enforce these items. What steps are you planning to take?
Well, through the plating process, for state or county highway, they are required for signatures. I think we have about half of our townships that require a culvert or driveway permit before we issue a building permit. So we have that right in our program, in the building permit program, that it actually pops up and says, hey, did you remember to do this? And then the shared driveways, the only way that we get involved, unless it's again on state or county highway, is if it's through a conditional use permit where somebody maybe transferred 3 building eligibilities and they're going to be clustered together. At that point in the permitting process, we can require that they do a shared driveway for access. And we try to enforce that.
You're doing your job pretty good on the enforcing compared to what it used to be. I know every time I've gone for a permit lately, it was
Yeah.
get a permit on the driveway too. So.
Sorry, yeah. We do
But if
try.
people go to the township for a permit,
Yeah.
and they don't have within their records what the county mandated, the township goes ahead and gets a permit. You drive by and go, I know we said no more driveways there, and here it is.
Mine's, I've been getting from Mike, Crick's development, but they aren't doing any of that down in Lincoln County, so so they're doing it in this end of the neck of the
Yeah.
woods, so.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of documenting and
They have first to
getting
admit
people to check.
that, yeah, there may be those few, which I know which one you're talking about, that slip through. And but we really, I think we started with maybe 2 townships, and Split Rock was one of them. That we were requiring, and now we're up to at least half of them, or maybe a little bit more than half that want a permit just to check it, just in case. And if a culvert's required, so we do enforce that for them.
I was just curious because I wasn't sure if you were thinking about having an access management, guide and program that was
Yes.
established.
The county will for the highway through the highway department, I think.
Yeah, we have
Something or-
4 or 5 different policies that we're drafting right now, and that's one of them. We're basing ours off of a couple models
works is that if, say, city, county, whatever government body that we're going through, that the state route goes through, if they've got a more stringent access management policy, then we go with what the local government body has on file versus what the state has on file.
Sure.
So that's just something that's written into our administrative rules for our policies.
That makes sense because we did review the state's rules and ours are more stringent than that.
Ours have to go for the whole state, so it's
Right.
hard to make it too restrictive.
Right.
And part of this, I mean, it seems like, well, this should all be under the county highway department, but the role of this plan is to offer support to the county highway department too on what they're planning to do, so that we have it in other documentation as well for them. And then the last step, I guess we covered the other ones there under land use impacts. We had identified, I know when we were going through this process, some of the places that we think, well, in the future we'll need to do the corridor studies. And I don't remember them off the top of my head. I know one was the Sioux Falls to Hartford corridor. So we just wanted to reiterate those in there. The fourth one, it will be added to, and that's going to focus on the recreational and the bicycle use and pedestrian use. So I'm just not going to go over that one since we didn't have much for that. The next, goal 5, was to provide, should be comprehensive, transportation planning to encompass future needs. And so one of the things that we had looked at, and maybe it didn't make it to these folders, was the master street plan, which is down below the screen there. And as I said, that we are required to have that by state law. So that's one of the things that we are needing to review every few years. And at that point, we would start pulling in the county highway department too to see really what's on their plan as to where they might be expanding. Again, 5.2, working with all the other authorities to make sure the roadway systems are working together. I know one of the things that's happening are some of the small towns are annexing land along what are county highways, but they're not taking in the highway. So the maintenance is ending up still being stuck with the county. And so I think that's one of the things I'm sure is a goal for the county highway department to work on getting that. So they're taking in the roadways too and taking responsibility for the added traffic onto those roads. And then the last step is requiring the dedication of part of the right-of-way through the plat approval process. We're already doing that, but we just wanted to say that we continue doing that in the future. Goal 6 talks about working with our. Yeah, I'm
Just
sorry.
stop for a second. I think this is about as good a time as any to talk about it. I don't see any goals in here related to rail.
I know. Yeah.
And I don't know if I'm giving my speech in here, I try not to bore you, but our company's involved in the rail business, and you go back 40, 50 years ago, rail traffic was pretty quiet. There weren't a lot of things going on. In fact, it was dying, and the state gave up rail lines, and everything was kind of shrinking. But it's growing now. I mean, it's growing at a big rate. And there's not enough money to improve highways at the rate we need to carry all this traffic. And you got fuel prices going up, and you got all these things going on, and there's more and more people shipping on rails. And it's coming in a big way, and it's happening all over the country. You've seen some of it in this county with the deal of lines, the Exeter there.
Right.
And TJN scrap people trying to find a place. There's a lot of people trying to figure out a way to locate their businesses in a way where they can ship on rail. And we're getting calls every day on the DNI Railroad finding places for things to go. And it's especially a problem in urban areas where things have been built so tightly to railroads that there's not room to make changes and improvements. But that's really the big issue that's coming, is as this traffic increases, there's going to have to be more lines and more turnouts and more ways to move trains around in order for them to move efficiently. And if we don't preserve areas for that to happen, you get into some real bottlenecks. There's some crazy examples of how bad it can get. Go up in North Dakota and find out what's happening up there right now.
And, there's been projects the size of lines, there's been 25 of those built in northwestern North Dakota. And the amount of traffic on the BNSF tracks up in North Dakota is going up tenfold. And, it's causing all kinds of problems. And
What's the lifespan of a rail line? I mean, when they maintain it, I mean, I know there's always work being done on it, but I mean, do they reach a point where you wear out the bed, or, I mean, tell me about that a little bit.
well, it takes constant maintenance, just like a highway. The structure, of course, is your grade, and then you have the ballast, and you have to either keep that clean or clean it or replace it if it breaks down. That's the rock that allows water to flow through it. And your railroad ties will rot out over time if they're wood. If they're concrete, they may last a long time. And the rail itself will wear and have to be replaced. So there's a variety of maintenance that needs to be done, but a rail once installed lasts a long, long time. Now, one thing that a lot of people don't realize, it costs just as much to build a mile of rail as it does cost to build a mile of highway. It's expensive. And it needs to be done right, or you just can't justify the improvements. So, I'm not exactly sure how the goals should be written. I can just tell you that it's kind of like quarries and gravel pits. And, nobody wants a rail yard in their backyard, but they got to go somewhere. And what you're seeing happening around the countryside is you get to more major metropolitan areas like Minneapolis and Kansas City and even Omaha to a certain degree. What's happening is these developments are getting kind of shoved together, and what you're seeing is either the big class 1 railroads like the BNSF or the UP are going together with some industrial customers, and they're buying up huge chunks of land and locating huge rail yards in these places. There's one down Gardner, Texas, or Gardner, Kansas. That's 15,000 acres. It's like a $300 million deal. There's one similar size going up in southwest of Minneapolis. So our problems are the same, but it's a little bit smaller because we're not as big of a metropolitan area. But we got to somehow figure out a way to accommodate that, because that's what's going to bring the jobs.
Right.
Companies in the future are going to ship more and more and more of their freight on rails. It's just, the trend's not going to change. What's the DOT think? I mean, they see.
I guess I haven't been involved in any of the rail stuff to know if that's, I have to assume you're telling me the truth. I guess I can't speak one way or the other to it, so.
Well, it's something we're dealing with everywhere we go, and it's not easy because it affects a lot of people, but it's something we need to.
Oh, yeah, and I want to assure you, Todd, there will be goals for railroads in here. One of the projects we're actually going to do today, so I was kind of waiting on that, and then I think since we have just 3 railroads, eventually we're going to need to have a meeting and kind of try to pinpoint places, because you're going to know better where it might work best for a spur or something, and we'll try to look at that too from a land use standpoint. But yeah.
Good.
Hey, Todd. So do they see in areas where the rail used to be, that they're starting to expand in that direction again? Maybe not necessarily here, but is that a common practice that they're kind of retaking over some of their old railroad beds?
That's happening. That's happening in a lot of cases, and in a lot of cases it's just they may put double tracks in where there's now single tracks. But a lot of it is that industrial yard concept where they need to have a place that can either originate or unload products. And like I say, it's not easy to find places to do that.
One interesting statistic that I heard at a presentation just about a month ago or so by an engineer that does a lot of the rail design for the state's rail system. He said that a gallon of diesel fuel will move a ton on freight, or a ton of freight on a rail, like 400 miles. Mm-hmm. And he also had the statistic for just a regular truck, and it was, I think, less than 100 miles per gallon.
It's generally accepted industry axiom that it's 5 times more efficient. I shouldn't know. There's variations in that, but it is one.
So I think just, especially in your guys' industry with that heavy freight, it makes, and around this area in Minnehaha County, there's so many quarries and gravel pits everywhere that it would only make sense to expand the rail system.
It's all bulk commodities, it's grain, you know, it's more and more, a higher percentage of grain is being hauled by rail now than it was 20 years ago. You're seeing a lot in all kinds of other agricultural products, byproducts like ethanol, EDGs. That's gone through the roof, or essentially come out of nowhere, because 20 years ago there were no ethanol plants. Anything else you can think of that's shipped in bulk, you know, plastic pellets, telephone poles, parts for wind towers. I mean, we're getting calls every week from people that want to unload or load some sort of a bulk commodity. They want to find a place to do it on rail. And it's not easy to find things for that. And that's where the jobs are going to come.
And it increases land value and ultimately revenue to the county to be able to provide better services for everybody.
Get a rail to Nordstrom's then, and should come out that way.
It wouldn't,
Not worry about so much traffic on that road.
It wouldn't behoove us as far as, because we're not hauling that much scrap out as a rule, you know. We're not a scrap processor, scrap a byproduct of what we do, in a sense. Our parts leave in little pieces. Eventually they leave in big pieces, but it's more than doable with a semi-load at that point. We would never want to stop long enough, or we have a train delivery, never considered it.
Okay, so railroads are still on the table. The last is just working with our GIS, you know, our computer mapping system, to make sure that when we're buying software for highway purposes, that we're, you know, trying to work to be compatible, just to make it easier on all the operators of it. I know the highway is really wanting an H lot layer, which is the lots that they purchased for expansion, which we don't have currently, and so that's a big focus to get that done. And then we want to just be working with the highway departments and be true trying to the state as well to make sure that we have all the current data in our system and we can use that.
The other thing I wanted to bring up is Mike Gavery called me. He said underneath these goals, he wasn't able to make it today, but he just wanted to express his concerns of the possibility that any part of our transportation system would consider roundabouts, and he wanted to express his concerns about them, that he dislikes them. And thought maybe that would be a topic, or somebody might have something to say about maybe where one may be in the future, or if the county ever thinks about them. He just wanted to stress that he doesn't believe that they work the way they should. Obviously, there's been quite a few different studies that look at different ways to slow traffic, and obviously it is popular in many areas of the country that it's coming back. So maybe.
Did he get stuck in one?
He must
You didn't mention driving truck.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, if you're in a grain trailer or
Yeah.
something trying to go around.
Who wasn't it called?
Well,
Mike
Mike
Gavery.
sent us in some
Yeah, I
board.
know. Did your name?
So he just wanted to put that on the board and to have, if anybody had any discussion with it, that.
Well, he's done snow removal in one once.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just leave that up to our two.
Well, we have looked at one already, at the intersection of 137 and 130 just south of Crooks. There was a fatality there last year, which certainly could have been prevented.
We say 137.
137 and 130, just south of Crooks.
Truly, I think the lights are flashing now.
Yeah,
Helping.
That's
Yeah.
a big deal.
Yeah,
That's a big deal.
It is, it really catches it.
Something else that they're doing is the reflective, on the stop signs and that's.
Oh, yeah,
that's a big deal.
yeah.
I think a lot of country road miles on it, really.
The solar powered flashing
Right.
lights
Yeah,
around them
that's
are,
a big deal.
those help them get your attention. That's what we need as Americans, more things to attract our attention, because we're so distracted by everything else. It just has to be brighter than the other thing.
That one's pretty bright.
That kind of feedback is good to hear though, because we're looking at putting up some more of those in different locations where we have.
Well, you notice those as soon as they go up.
They gotta work, I mean, you just see
But I think
it.
that intersection gets a lot of ag traffic too, and a lot of big, equipment and trucks and roundabout would be.
That road is.
Well, I know
very
that
busy.
here, there's a lot of concern for a rural roundabout, but over the nation, there's agriculture all over the place, and roundabouts have been proven to work in rural areas.
So
It's-
we'll
The key to the roundabout is the overall design and the radius of the circle that's used. The state currently has not built any roundabouts. Obviously, we know the city of Sioux Falls has. We're considering putting in our first two roundabouts on Highway 10 through Sisseton, one on the west end of town and one on the east end of town. And initially it caused a huge uproar with the community, and we've had to go back and sit in on city council meetings and talk to folks, and we're actually considering doing a roundabout rodeo, which is something that the city of Sioux Falls did, where they set up with cones, kind of like a mock roundabout so people could go through and drive it. But, I mean, obviously Sisseton is a rural community that has a lot of ag traffic that goes through there, and so the whole design of the roundabout is based on the ability to have, a long truck with a pump even. And there's an apron, all roundabouts are created with an apron that essentially they're for tracking. Those rear wheels of those big trucks track on that apron. It's not an area for a passenger car to drive on, but it's an area for the back end of those big rigs to track and still make it through the roundabout. The only thing that we have found we can't design for is when you get one of these trucks that's hauling the big windmill blades. They're just too long and we just can't accommodate them. So if there's any of those that would go through the Sisseton area, they have a detour that they have to take. But it can accommodate them, it can work, they slow traffic down. The biggest benefit is safety and maintenance, because these two locations would need a traffic signal, and the overall life, cost of signals is huge compared to the simple maintenance of a roundabout. And that's really what's driving a lot of now acceptance by the community of Sisseton to getting these roundabouts installed. So.
And I would assume, DJ, it's places where you might consider it in this county is probably growing enough that access or a land to do one might be a problem. On some of these intersections.
We wouldn't need a lot more of additional right of way. If we had willing landowners, it would certainly make the construction a lot easier, but without having requirements for sidewalk and stuff. As long as we were able, and utilities is a big thing. If there's a lot of utilities in the intersection, that can cause problems. We're not as concerned with fitting it in as we are as just putting one in. We're not looking to put one in to take a whole bunch of phone calls for the next couple of years, that's for sure. But it's something that we were absolutely looking at as alternative when we're looking at intersections.
I don't know if there's anybody we did. There's a webinar, a national webinar on helping communities accept roundabouts and their safety and the different advantages of them that's coming up here very soon. I think it's later this month. That I've advised our designer for that system project that he should get signed up for it. So I can certainly email it to you. What's that?
Who's designing?
Well, I don't know. Right now, I just know it's gonna sign the work now.
I was involved with both of the city of Sioux Falls roundabouts. The first one that we did was on Career Avenue, and that was, the design was done by a local consultant that was selected by the university, and everybody involved agrees that it was a poor design. The second one was also, well, it was more of a regional consultant. The group that actually did the geometrics on it had not done a roundabout prior to that, and so they definitely did a better job at the design, but they would also agree that there's better designs out there. And so, I wasn't involved enough to be blamed for anything, but I was involved enough to know that there's better ways to do that. So if I don't know if the county's ever gonna do a roundabout, but if they do, we certainly have a little bit of expertise where we're not just going in blindfolded and going to put in something that's not gonna work for rural ag community.
And DJ, was it the size, or was it that apron that was too small, or?
On the first one, the problem was the approach angle. There basically is no approach angle, it's a 90 degree. Right. And the second one, they tried to correct that and they overcorrected, which is bad. They have the truck apron that is able to accommodate it, but their truck apron should not be used as much as it is being used. Looks nice, we bought flowers.
Remember what that one thing?
Yeah.
Go drifting around it.
But it's proven there's a lot of statistics on roundabouts. There's a 90% reduction in fatalities because of the reduced 90 degree angle collisions. And so that's the primary reason you would put them in. And the cost savings on the owner is really substantial, like Brooke was saying. If we were ever to look at a signalized intersection, we would very strongly look at, or very closely look at a roundabout in lieu of a signal.
You really see a lot of them around the country.
So they end up saving a lot of energy also, rather than sitting there with light and no traffic.
Right.
And if you're looking at rural areas.
I don't know what would make somebody more mad, but I think pulling up to a red light at a rural intersection and not having anybody within miles, it probably would do a pretty good job of upsetting somebody. Or a roundabout, they would be able to make sure nobody's there and then drive right through.
They might do that on the signal anyway. Anybody else have some other transportation things that they can think of that they'd like to see or talk about today, or something pops in your head, and probably will follow up on the railroad definitely. Next.
All right, the next thing I wanted to talk about is definitely, we're still on this transportation mode here. So I have a map for each side here. I don't know if it's been rolled up since last time because we didn't get to it. Somebody might look at it upside down. The idea here, and maybe just having the people that are involved with the county or have been in some of these areas, we made these maps to focus on the rail lines and to try to think that somebody might, maybe there's a rail opportunity that maybe we should, we have these areas that we show, industrial or commercial areas with the larger boxes, but there's also areas where the rail comes through some of these towns, like Crooks or, I need to make sure that I look on here, did I say the town right? The rail line that goes up through Crooks or Colton. And obviously a lot of it has to do with terrain as well, but maybe where we can put some locations, and just kind of like we did these boxes on here, to do something where there would be an opportunity for rail, saying, this terrain is good, maybe it's just right south of Crooks there, so I'll just point to this one right here, and then also for you guys right here too. So maybe as we think this is that box, that large box to the right, which is that commercial and industrial, depending on if you're looking at it upside down or not, might be a good opportunity for somebody to have economic development, to have something that would be localized and that they could be able to use that rail. But we wanted it a good location. Some of them, when you drive through, the rail goes through, there's a little creek there, the terrain is bad, and it's maybe not a very good place for an opportunity for rail development. And I'm not saying necessarily a big car, big unloading zone, but maybe it's something that's more egg products or something that would be unloaded there, or loaded, or shipped. So I just kind of want your thoughts, and maybe just kind of being involved with the county living in the county, maybe you see some areas that perhaps this might work.
Is that that spot over by the Winterstein's over there? A couple miles south of 258?
So on here, where you thought it's.
Yeah, that one on, that
Oh,
Crooks area.
okay.
Big feedlot that used to be there, it's right on the rail line, and I know I've heard a number of people say something about doing something, you know, it's only, it's just a little over a mile south of 90, that interchange there, so I think transporting things off.
Where TJ was thinking about going one time.
Yeah, one time, and then,
Yeah.
they were given a runaround so much that.
Well, I think it makes great
I
sense
think it's a good place.
to tie those,
Not a lot of close residential there either, it's kind of spread out.
That's where it's pretty low.
Yeah, Rudy's.
Now, north of Fulton, you have the one going up, right? That you go through?
Mark that on there.
No, we had an
Yeah,
application
I think that's right in this area.
north of
here.
Colton on the highway, for a,
Fertilizer.
fertilizer plant, and the people across,
Being able
like,
to
it would be
access
right
the
next to
rail
it,
line.
yeah, it files
Yeah,
it.
there's 258 comes down,
So
yeah, it's right
it's
over
on
in
hold.
there, because this is
That's north
a
Cole.
whole big old
Yeah,
feed
right
out
on
area
Colton
there,
on
all
the
over,
next,
it's an old
it
abandoned
would have been
house,
on that one.
some old buildings
One of
The
there.
terrain is probably appropriate for that location to start something.
Yeah, right on that corner.
I think there's
You know, yeah,
somebody,
you probably need to have.
the house over here, the house
Just
back,
those, I mean, the hundred
back
car
over there,
unit
and then
came
pretty
to
much
mind
opens
the other
down
night,
and
we
back
heard the
over
first
there.
two come, and I didn't hear anyone after that.
Well, and it wasn't the rail that was the problem, it's the hydrous ammonia being stored there, which is the problem. Which they weren't gonna run on rail very much anyways from what, it was said, so it's more the fact that, even though our Farmstead has it, the fact that it would be in bulk, there was, I think, the concerns of the family, and so.
So that's held up.
That's held up until the.
So it's not necessarily a bad site, it was.
No, the
what was
site-
at that site.
Yeah, I mean,
Because that is a flat area.
Exactly, it was flat, they needed access to rail, they needed access to the highways. It was moving out of town, so it was,
Yeah.
less endangerment for people and,
Yeah, it's a
you know,
good
they
location.
exercised their civil rights and filed citizens, so we'll see where that goes.
And I know it was a combination of seeing some different items that wanted to be located along rail, and some other research that we've done that they are showing these opportunities. Not saying that they're going to happen, but giving a good location to say there's an opportunity, just like the one that you were talking about. Maybe it's a good spot for that, maybe it's not. But you also think that them facilities are all also located inside city limits. So isn't the rural area better? But whose burden do you put that on at that time?
And I know there was something right in Crooks where the railroad is on the north end, that was really looking to go in there. I'm not sure what happened on that one, because it was in the city limits, but.
Yeah, just north of Leon Johnson.
Okay,
or
yeah,
something
yeah,
like that.
yeah. What happened to it, I don't know, but yeah, go ahead, Todd.
I was
The
just
map and-
gonna say, anytime you can tie these designated areas for industrial.
Yeah,
Tie that in with that rail, it gives you an opportunity to spur into there and serve industries.
No, you're
Right.
gonna have good access road-wise into there,
Oh, yeah.
because you're gonna have to get
Right.
stuff there to get it and get it off.
right, and that's kind of why we're, asking for your help too,
Right,
is,
right.
and we're out there, but not as often as you are, and you
Yeah.
kind of know, and some of it, especially, with the DNI, Todd is everything, moving south there, well, some of that's in the floodplain.
Yeah, unfortunately,
Which
the majority of
causes-
this is very low ground. It's
Yeah.
probably not real suitable for development.
Which causes a few problems,
Yeah.
running south.
We've had a number of times that we look at doing things in Baltic, and it's, it's just,
Yeah, this is more of a struggle to try
Right.
and, though if you could spur off and go a little farther maybe and, you need more space, but.
now the green here, that is what's considered the floodplain, is that what this is?
I
Or
think
is
it's just the zone.
That was just a
This is
buffer.
zone.
That was
Or a buffer.
they were doing a buffer here along these same, along some of the larger lakes over so many acres, the buffers around.
Wasn't it that, when people
try
were
to
finding
maintain
things,
clarity and
everybody likes to describe
maybe
it.
not so much
That's
runoff
what
into the
that
actual
is.
water.
Yeah, because it'd be right over there, because they're right over my
You know,
shop all the time
yeah.
when they fly in. so
That's
it's
kind of
like-
why they lost that, which was too bad, because it would have been a great site for it.
Well, Dell's is working pretty hard to try and find a place to put an industrial park. There's several people in town that want to build it. to the south and more to the east away from the rail. And to me, I think that's,
Have they filled all the spots out by the interstate? Industrial park?
Pretty close. I think there's still some.
yeah, I
that are
mean,
vacant.
the ones that are real visible to the interstate are kind of taken, but there's still more there.
There's that farm suit to the north with the zone, but nothing's ever happened there.
Mm-hmm.
I think they were looking at
Or we
Garfield
just see
Ave
those places set
south.
aside for that purpose and then not utilized before we start another area.
But they annexed whatever. For those of you that don't know, Del Rapids put their industrial park out by the interstate out of their city limits, so they,
Which we encourage them to do.
yes, but they didn't gain a benefit tax-wise from being out, outside their city limits, so they lost out on that.
And that's what they're trying to do now.
Yeah, right, which makes sense, so.
It's a decent idea, but the way they've planned it now and the way they're headed, it's not gonna be a rail service facility.
Right.
But
And that could potentially in the future saying we are the only area in Minnehaha County that has rail access to our industrial park. Because there isn't really, I mean, other than in some city limits maybe, the county doesn't have any, and I guess I can see why that could be a added benefit.
Yeah, I mean, so that's, even though probably rail, you may get heavy, or I would say industrial ag uses, or maybe more commercial or industry that might be spotted out there, having that rail, that's kind of why we would like to develop a map where we would recommend.
Well, I think certainly the spot where the one was going to be located could easily be marked, which is
got
what North
highlighted at
Colton.
least on that, or North of Colton, yeah.
And I'm not saying there has to be 10 of them. I'm saying if there's a couple opportunities,
But I mean, that was,
that's really what we're looking
well,
at.
I think the old power plant out east of town is another very legitimate area. It's not on our rail,
Right,
but
X or
it's
something.
on rail. That's where GTA is going. I don't know exactly where that's at, but they're.
Along that Rice Street area, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's,
Or even,
that's really
like,
kind of
if
industrial now, the way it is. I'm sure it's still.
In the
fixed.
section a little bit,
It's almost
not
good.
kind of-
That's another very legitimate place to go.
What about up like Sherman where they originally had the plant at one time? That's kind of in the middle of nowhere. So they got a lot of land along the rail up there. Not a lot of people.
Then you got highway 11 access.
402 right here.
Oh, that's,
I'm gonna be in charge of moving on.
And two, out by, where we've got
North of the river.
north of course from there, I think there would still be more
The river's
potential
right
in that
there,
rail line
so-
as well. We've got the out there, or we've got the rail car business that went there for a reason.
This must have slip up.
When you get down here, let's see, you get past, this is that road, get back in here, this is a pretty good area too.
This is where.
It's accessed by that road between mine and trucks. But there's,
They already have the rail yard.
Goes right by my
Well,
house.
I mean,
It's 5:30 in the morning
I
and it's
know.
10:30 at night.
I know, that's a regular. The limits.
well-
It's hard out there.
Yeah, they're right in that part that's actually city limits on the north side of the interstate. So I think ours kind of ours is overlapped that,
But, you know, if they're looking
particular
for a
area
flat
at this
area,
time, but.
With
well,
this
but
line,
you can
Fremont.
do it, you can do a pretty good flat area.
You're right.
You have to,
There's a lot
Yeah.
of cliffs and lots.
Well, if you can find the location.
Yeah, but the kind of the valley through there, I would say would make it much
Right.
better.
Just bring it out, bring it back.
But then they did say, that is maybe a good, maybe too bad of a spot here as well,
Quarter mile.
just where they.
Yeah. I go normally, I do, yeah.
Yeah.
Not
yet.
Yeah, it's kind of like, well,
Does this other line stop at Madison?
Yeah, exactly.
Does it keep on going,
Then it goes up through Chester, and up to the alcohol plant.
More with the blades and stuff, I
think
don't
the
know.
grid's still there, but I
That's
don't
in the
think
city,
they-
so,
the trains beyond that.
in the city limits, so.
What's it?
Yeah, I have no
It
idea.
goes north of Wentworth.
It goes all the way to
The traction that it was built for what they want to do.
the intersection of the DM and the
Whether they can
Wolf.
find workers that
Okay.
need that.
To So it does continue. I was looking at that other map and I didn't know where it said.
What I know about
Right, Madison, it looked like it stopped.
Sherman, there's
Like a
road
little
up
bit
there,
of a-
and then you're along the river, a lot of this, there's not much access to anything through here.
No,
And
that's-
in the town, the elevator and the, it's cooked food plant there, using up most of that access. So, yeah, there's a little bit
Talk about building
coming out on that
playground
outside
down
spur,
along everything.
it's actually had storage units there.
How that.
So that's pretty flat there right along Highway 11.
Of course, they're just.
And then you get
green.
down and, let's see where.
Yeah, they're just,
Yeah, Fremont. by
Yep.
mile.
They're
By the
just-
seed lot.
they're just far enough.
Across the hill,
uh,
there's just off Highway
They're over
East,
top of the
on the
aqua.
Renner Road.
I think there are, I'm not gonna, I know that there have been
Both sides,
some
that's a mile north of course.
discussions about that, and
There's a few
about
flat
that
spots
before.
up through there.
If they were to want to
There's
carry
some
different
just
types
right
of
south
fertilizers,
of Colton.
it'd be
Yeah.
owned, that's the
And I
thing.
guess everybody
Yeah.
has their
Yeah,
rights,
the-
but
where that
Oh,
comes
that's a
out.
whole, that's a whole.
Yeah.
wellhead
right
protection.
there is.
That's certainly a big issue.
And there's not much out there.
Yeah.
And that's where they build
The
railroads.
cemetery won't
They
mind.
build them where it's cheapest to go. And where it isn't.
Oh, you never know.
If they protest, we'll hear about it.
Because it's actually, there's one kind of a gym.
Erosion, but.
But, again,
Yeah.
Well, it's unfortunate.
So, if, who's in Bender, then look what.
Say that again.
Who's taking the suit out, there's money there, I need to go online.
The property owners,
Right across.
that's right, I believe them are, the ones that are concerned about that, and I don't know the full details about that, but who, obviously they have somebody that's they have an attorney with the group of them up there. I think they wanted to work with them and move the driveways around so they weren't directly across the street from them,
Yeah.
but my understanding is that was one thing, and then I think they agreed to do that, and then thought,
Yeah, but a lot
that
of
isn't
times,
maybe
you know,
everything we
other
wanted.
companies have
But,
works and-
I don't know the fine details of that.
You know,
You know, he's talking about across.
rail is
the
good,
put
but
in
if you
a
have
mile of rail
livability
line,
of an area.
put in a mile of
and,
road.
You
You know, if you
know,
came
think
from
of
here, and
what
went
comes
to
along
there,
with the.
that's a
with
lot
the
less
rail.
distance
Yeah,
than if
that's
you're
true.
coming up here and going across here and going up there. and going across.
What kind of
Miles.
good paying jobs, what kind of people to fill it.
Well, it all depends
Yeah,
on, they could do good jobs. I mean, rail, people who are working on the railroad.
Generally,
part,
they're manufacturing
That's right.
jobs,
And the
they're
low end, they're
bulk
ran
commodity
Sioux Falls,
jobs.
where we're trying to move the tracks up with them.
You're gonna bring dust, you're gonna
Right.
bring
Came on
traffic,
blue, yeah.
you know, that's.
That is one of the things,
Connotation.
you know, that you need.
That's right.
With the railroad.
And I think still trying to be environmentally friendly with
But
some
that's
of
what
these
you
places.
face.
And, you know, it's not the industrial age, you know, when things are being built and there's black smoke coming out of them, smoke
The
stacks.
aesthetics of
You
it,
know,
and then.
that's still part of it.
That's the golf course. there.
Fertilizer
Yeah.
plants blowing up out of Lake Towns.
Oh, no, that's not.
That's
And you know, there's, as far as dust, and you build something, you have to, get a permit.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I mean, there's no trolls for that kind of stuff. but-
Okay, there,
But definitely, that's very true, it all comes with that development, but it doesn't matter if it's a residential neighborhood going next to somebody that
the
doesn't want
feedlot's
it or
something now, it's
Right.
active, but
it's
Yeah.
still,
People don't want it.
Yeah, you don't have to
That's-
get out to
They don't want it anywhere.
Not in my backyard.
That's what they, yeah, that's it.
But I want the convenience of it
Right,
being.
I wanna travel on good roads, and I wanna travel on, you know, uncongested highways, I don't wanna have to fight truck traffic, but by golly, don't expand the rail.
this is
I
the,
don't want to
top across the,
well, there's a lot of people that didn't necessarily like, that development going into lines there either.
Right.
But you know that, farmers were gonna put grain onto that anyway. You know, even after it comes in, they're gonna be utilizing that, but they just still didn't want it by them, but they were gonna utilize it. You know, the way to get a better price for your commodity is to get it somewhere that you can get it closer to market, is put it on the rail, they don't want to be shipped. It's just less expensive or smaller expensive.
well, too, by the Crooks gun club.
This has gotten to the point where, believe it or not, I know of one for sure, I've heard there's two more, but they're actually farmers, private landowner farmers that are building their own grain
Yeah,
elevators.
so that would be down over here, just.
On their own property.
Past 90.
They're putting up big loop tracks and their own elevators and loading their own grain. The one guy that's doing up in Aberdeen, I know him well.
Okay,
Yeah, so,
I'd rather,
yeah,
yes.
the yellow we're getting is Sioux fall.
Yeah, that might be.
See,
No,
no,
I guess
okay,
it's
so-
our 3 mile area.
Take care of a Rooney's.
Well, there's two more in South Dakota supposedly.
Yeah, there's one in Illinois.
Rooney's big, 'cause it's that exit there, that's a mile and a quarter up to 258.
You have to read
Well,
this.
they must have planned for that.
He's gone now.
They paved it.
Yeah.
Got that big
You
bridge
didn't make it?
paved, and then it
Yeah,
goes to
then they-
gravel, so I assumed
Took
the
their
thought
route.
was that someday,
Well, it's,
It's not
not
Outer River Crossing.
Farms 25,000
I'm
acres.
thinking not.
No,
The
eventually-
city's already got-
Yeah.
This thing's,
It's almost built to pave that.
I don't know what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
He's pretty sure he's got a
And was the
business
thought
plan
there'd be
to
some
pay for
rail
this thing
pickup
in
along
5
there,
years. He's
like
gonna
over
load
in these cities?
8 unit trains with his own grain a year, and that's all he's gonna do.
Don't go another mile.
He's gonna be able to less heavy
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but you can pull off there. Great route. This guy can get a
Oh, that one for sure.
We get calls on it all the time. So we started looking at it, but then the city said, hold on, they're already looking.
Oh, really? Oh, that'd be so nice.
It's hard to pull.
I mean, I think if we're kind of finished up with that, so we have a few opportunities and some things marked on the map, that'll be good and helpful for staff here to take a look and kind of put some things together as far as the rail is concerned as well. So I don't, Pat had one other thing we were gonna discuss quickly, and
Well, we were just gonna kind of give you an update, because I know a lot of you were familiar with the application that came in right on the north end of Hartford to do the big housing development with the townhomes and their green initiative, or whatever they were calling it. We've heard now that they got upset with the county as well, as the city of Hartford, and that they've now decided to purchase land down by Canton and try to do that there. And so we think at this point that for those of you, this would make happy
So
that
they would go on there.
well, it's just kind of sitting in limbo land now. So,
Is that over by that Central States warehouse that just went on?
yeah, it would have been right across the street.
Okay.
So we just wanted to give you an update that that is sitting there. And then also, if any of you want to talk to us after the meeting, some of you were interested in the drainage case with D. Shepherd suing the McGrady's on some drainage that was done. So we had depositions on that this week. So if you have any questions, we can sure talk to you about what happened and everything. But that was it for today. As far as this stuff. I think Ryan just had a few more words he wanted to say, and then we're off for home today.
So I just wanted to finish off by saying thank you guys for being part of this task force, and you guys have given some really good feedback to me while I've been here with the county. I am leaving. I took a job with the city of Arden Hills as their city planner, just north of the Twin Cities, or excuse me, just north of Minneapolis, so in the metro area. So I have another next Friday is my last day. So I want to say thank you. And I guess we'll continue with this process, and we have some other questions for them towards Pat and or Dustin or Scott in our office, and go from there. So again, thank you guys. You guys have been, we've had a really good, I think it's really helped us in this process, and as far as getting some maps ready and getting some land use data and parks and trails and getting that to our public open houses, having them look at that information, and then kind of working through some of these chapters, giving us some other ideas as we move forward with the development of this plan. So again, thank you, and I'm sure hoping that you guys will continue with this until we get it finished. So
Good luck. Good luck to you.
yeah, thank you
You know,
guys.
it's gonna be colder and wetter up there.
Yeah, we're
Lot
certainly
colder.
gonna miss it.
It must be an opportunity, so congratulations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Congratulations. And so we're tentative on the next date, even so we kind of refocus on our office and spread this stuff out. And I neglected to introduce Travis here. I won't bother with last name here on the corner, but he's here for the summer interning with us. We'll probably see him around on other things too. So.
And if our nice days are stay limited, the next meeting should be outdoors.
Meeting will be parks
Not
on
a
that.
bad idea. All right.